All right, we are live. Welcome everybody that's coming in, especially the replay viewers. And we got an extra special show. You guys noticed that my colors aren't red and black anymore. We got Mental Health Awareness Month green here. So, we wanted to, and I wanted to bring a cast of special guests tonight to try to make sure that we really do a deep dive into what this mental health, and I'll call it a crisis, right? This mental health crisis looks like from real people. And we also have a mental health professional here as well. And I'm gonna introduce them in a second. But first thing I want you to do when you come in, let us know you're here. Share and invite with your friends and family. We're gonna talk about some important stuff tonight. And we're gonna talk it out. We're gonna have some fun and we're gonna get a little serious. We're gonna get a little light, but we're gonna get some information tonight. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take 30 seconds to make sure that we are broadcasting to Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope at the same time. And when I come back, we're going to get right into it. So stay tuned.
Okay, everybody wants good love, that's true, I know. Derek Jones about to break it down with the relationship gumbo. Welcome to the podcast. Ain't no doubt we all need this, ayy, cause better relationships need better ingredients, ayy. So if you want better relations, it's about communication, finding love, staying together. We all wanna make it better, yeah. Derek Jones, the host, your relationship coach. Thank you all for tuning in. Relationship gumbo, ayy.
All right, we are back. Give me 1 second here. I want to make sure that this video catches up. All right, we're good now. All right, so mental health, a candid conversation about mental health. Like I said, we're gonna talk about mental health. It's very near and dear to me. It's very near and dear to most of us. And a lot of us just don't know it, right? Or you don't know it yet, or someone in your family, a lot of people in your family. I'd be even remiss to say it's probably most of us, right? So we're gonna talk about this. So the way that this works for new listeners, we are going to record this podcast live. So what I normally do is I will pause for 3 seconds. I will intro the podcast. You feel free to comment, ask questions. If it's pertinent to the dialogue, then I will address your question, but I'm not going to be welcoming everybody as you pop in. At the end of the podcast, I'm going to pause for another 3 seconds, and then we can speak freely if necessary. So stay tuned, and we're going to get started. And welcome to another episode of the Relationship Gumbo Podcast. My name is Derek Jones, and I am your host. I'm a certified life coach, an engineer, a strategist, and a mental health advocate. And so tonight we have a very special show. We have a cast of not just men, but Black men. We very seldom do you hear candid conversation from the mind of a Black man. And especially in this, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we want to talk about those things that a lot of us feel like are stigmatized, and we may be a little afraid to talk about them. So tonight we're going to, unhinge the door, and we're just going to get right into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up all of my guests at once, and then we're going to introduce them, and we're just going to get into the conversation. So stand by. All right, let me make sure everybody's unmuted. I think Jermaine, you muted yourself. Okay, there we go. So here we go. So I'm going to start from top to bottom. The two gentlemen on your right side of your screen, actually, we all graduated high school together. So Northwestern Wildcats, if y'all out there, class of 91. So first, we have Jermaine Norman. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let each person introduce themselves. So first, Jermaine, you can go. Just intro yourself. Let people know a little bit about why you're here, and maybe what you do, and then we're gonna keep it moving.
Jermaine Norman, like you said, graduated from Northwestern High School. Member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, Director of Education. So I'm here because we want to educate people about mental health and how to get help when they're going through social and emotional situations.
All right. Okay. Next up, we have Kevin Harvey.
Kevin Harvey, man. I didn't graduate from Northwestern in 91. I went back to Theodore Roosevelt.
Oh, I didn't know that. He was there, though.
But I'm here because I want to let the people know that mental health is it's not a bad thing. It's actually a cool thing. It's something that we all need, and we'll get more into that when the podcast goes on.
All right. And last but not least, we have Mr. Derek Cooper. And he is our resident expert. So I'm gonna let you talk about who you are and what you do.
So my name is Derek Cooper. Like Derek said, I'm a licensed graduate professional counselor. I graduated from Bowie State University last year in spring. Also, I'm a certified addictions counselor, and I've been doing that for the past 4 years now.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna definitely use your knowledge tonight to give us some context on some of the things that we're going to discuss. So let me make sure that there aren't any pertinent comments here. People are coming in, so that's great. So what we want to do first is I want to say that tonight, for the people that are listening, what I wanted to do tonight is I wanted you to really just take a listen to what we're discussing, and just kind of you're gonna see in your mind, you're gonna see flashes of, you know, maybe your son or your husband or your uncle or your grandpa. We're regular people that deal with regular things, and what I believe is that if you see that it's not just you, then you'll be more inclined to seek help, or at least try to better yourself and grow from the situation that you're in mentally. So what I wanted to do first, and I have a couple of bullet points here, but we really just going to have a conversation and just kind of let you guys listen in. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was people who deal with mental health. I don't know what the term is. I don't want to say problems or issues, but I got to be careful. People who deal with things, we typically look at mental health and going and seeking help as like these really harsh clinical things. And that, I think sometimes, like we're going to talk about stigmas, but in our communities, a lot of times we call people crazy for going to get help because we only see mental health as, you know, bipolar and schizophrenic and the clinical stuff, and you're getting medicated. But then, you know, where I normally try to speak on, because I'm not the professional, is these little things that we can make tweaks. And we know, like, people will say all the time, I'm depressed today, I'm stressed out, but they don't really have context to it. And if you don't know how to appropriately name it, then how do you go about trying to seek help to fix it? Because you can say I'm depressed every day for the next 20 years and never try to take any steps to correct it. And finally, before we get to the gentleman here, I want to make sure that what we do, because I've been looking online and I see all this stuff on Facebook. It's a lot of people that are now speaking out about this stuff, especially in quarantine and on Zoom and all these other things. But we also have a responsibility to our tribe and our community. So wherever you can get the information, come get it. And we just want to be one of those vessels. So what I want to do right now is I want each of the gentlemen, and then you can provide your context to whether it's personally, Derek, or even professionally, about stigmas. First, we're going to talk about stigmas. The stigmas that we have in our families, in our culture, in our society. How have those stigmas affected you in a way that made you feel possibly like uncomfortable to talk about maybe some things you were going on? Like, has that been, like, growing up, was it like a thing where you felt like you could not share your emotions? We'll start with Jermaine.
So yes, I think that's been the basis of my adult cry, is the not being or not feeling heard or understood, which triggers a whole bunch of other things. And that has become, as you say, for me personally, which is why I wanted to be on the show when you broke it down to me, that journey of self-awareness to be able to realize that everything that I may be feeling on the inside is not actually taking place on the outside. And then how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Kevin?
Just like even from being a young man, right? Just never feeling good enough. Even though I might have had this or that or whatever I did, it was not good enough to me, and I was never happy or satisfied with what I accomplished. And it's still like that to this day, and that's why I'm in therapy now.
Yeah. So we're gonna come back to that in a minute.
I got you.
Derek?
So to speak from it from both sides, when I was a kid, like just growing up in a very traditional Caribbean household, like, you know, it's just strict and then certain things just happen. So breaking out of that, I think, was like the difficult part. But like, you know, kind of like what Kevin was saying, like, you know, like through therapy and things, like, you know, been able to break away from like the old traditions of things and make my own, kind of like start carving my own path out. And that kind of leads into the professional side of it too, is just the difficulty of being a Black man in this field, because there's not a lot of us, right? Like, you know, when I meet a lot of my clients, they're saying like, I was like searching high and low for somebody like me because it's not a lot of you guys around. So it's honestly, it can be kind of isolating.
Yeah. It's also like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I see this all the time, it's like even with the stigmas, and we can talk about the Black community too, specifically, we call each other weak. You know, you weak, you want to go get help. Why would you want to do that? As if we all have the manual on how to correct these problems, right? And nobody the person that's telling you probably messed up.
100%, 100%, you're 100% right.
And so what happens with the stigmas, and to piggyback on what Derek was saying about the lack of African Americans in the mental health field, a lot of times you want to go to a person that you feel like you can identify with. Mm-hmm. But then you go and it's not enough. So now you got to either choose someone that doesn't look like you or may not identify with you. And a lot of times people will go that route and say, you know what, nah, I'm good. And then they won't even come back to try to even figure it out. And so they try, what a lot of us try to do is think that we're good enough to self-heal and self-medicate and you know, you're going to the bar because you had a bad day. And we I think we all been there, right? So
yes.
happy hour was the counselor, right? So you gotta in context just to talk about like what that means to a young Black man who's dealing with the pressures of just being a Black man in America, on top of what you may be dealing with your family, what you may be dealing with in your relationship, what you may be dealing with your kids, and to have the stigma sit on top of all of that and say, nah, you can't say anything. You don't want them to talk about you. You don't want them to think you weak, because we supposed to be we supposed to be strong no matter what. Right. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted this panel to look like this, because we also, even in a lot of women will always say this to me, y'all more emotional than we are. we got hearts and feelings too. And sometimes
but we had it real good though, Derek.
It may take you 40 years to figure it out, but it's in there, right?
For sure.
So it's and I'm gonna jump off of this because we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of this.
Oh,
that stigma thing stifles a whole community from healing from traumas from the past, present, and it dictates what happens in the future. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, about what that looks like for the generations to come. We didn't have a manual. Our parents, like, you think that our generation wants to be macho look at the generation before us and the generation before that. When you talk about people not really talking, so we didn't have the manual. So we had to figure it out, trial and error. And a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of, struggle came behind that. And then hopefully you'll get to a point where you say either A, I need to move different, or B, I need somebody to help me move different. Right. And that's where people like Derek come in, because getting help is not, it's not taboo. Like I was going to say anymore. It was never taboo, but now you start to see people feeling more comfortable. Society's changing. They feel a little more comfortable, but it's still not enough. It's still not enough. Go ahead, Derek.
So I think I saw exactly what you're talking about more when I was doing addictions counseling, just because I was doing group addictions counseling, and it was difficult to see when, like a black male came in there and like, I'm doing the eval. And they're just like, I don't got a problem, nothing's wrong. And I'm like, but you're here. So what are we at least talking about? Like, what can we at least figure out what's happening right now? Because something drove you to be here to talk to me in the first place. So what is it? So,
right.
But to admit you have a problem with, like, whether it's alcohol, whether it's other drugs or marital issues, like, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to actually come out and say it to a stranger, like, yeah, this is what's happening in my life. And I think what happens too, some professionals, no one specific, but like some people think people supposed to come into therapy and just get it and supposed to just start talking.
Right.
No one does that. So I feel like, especially with our people, like, there's like an expectation, like, they should come here and just be a part of the plan and everything. But it's also, they're also get looked at a certain way too, because you don't know what to really say to them because you can't relate.
Yeah. It's tough, but it's necessary. Use all that macho-ness to push you over the edge to go and get help, man. It's so. Go ahead, Jermaine.
So I was going to say, I think that when you talk about stigmas, if I flip it a little bit, I know that there is a stigma in our community about even going to counseling. So a lot of people see counseling, and one of my friends, Ms. Shaliga, posted that it doesn't necessarily mean you have mental issues, but because that's how it's classified in our community, a lot of people don't want to go, because then does that mean I'm crazy? Right. And so they don't even consider that as an option, because they're going to try to work it out themselves, and then the situation becomes worse. And like for me, my journey to counseling and self-awareness came through church. And I just went to a church where our pastor at the time just happened to be on that journey himself and began to share that wisdom with the church. And then a lot of people started going to Christian counselors, and then it kind of made it okay, and people started to go. But I think, like, when you go for the first time, to your point, there, another stigma is, and I saw Kevin shaking his head, a lot of times being a black male, you can't be wrong, right?
Yep.
From the time I was a little boy, and now as a man, in a lot of settings that I'm in, whether it's romantic, whether it's with the job, with your kids, you always got to be on it. And when you off or you're wrong, I think for us, we take it as we're less than, right? So being wrong or being off means that you're not the man that you're supposed to be. And so when you go into counseling and you are engaging with a person that you don't know, to Derek's point, there's a level of trust that has to be built between me and the counselor where I can start spilling in my gut, so to speak, and they not judge me.
Exactly.
It takes a little bit of time, but I would just say this, I've been multiple times, and this probably is some of the best things that I've ever done to invest in me.
So let's do a segue. If anybody had the other points on the stigma topic, now's your time. But we're gonna move into the next category here, which is at what point did you identify that you needed to seek help or you needed to make a change? And we're gonna start with Kevin on this one.
I think I started counseling maybe about 4 months ago, maybe three or 4 months ago, and I was spiraling out of control. I'm gonna keep it real. You know, I'm not here to fake. I was spiraling out of control, was drinking too much, doing a lot of stuff, and never felt happy. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I need to talk to somebody, right? And I went, right. I had a friend of mine took me to a therapist, right? And it's gonna be funny right now. You're gonna laugh, right? So when I went to see the therapist, my therapist, she's a very nice looking woman, right? I'm like, I can't talk to her. But when I did, I went back in the room and I sat down and talked to her. All that went on my mind, and it's been a blessing ever since. But I still haven't got to the point yet where I've told her everything I need to tell her. So I'm still working. That's all I can say.
Right.
I'm still working.
What do you think holds you back? I'm curious.
Huh?
What do you think holds you back from doing that?
I don't know. I just embarrassment, man. Embarrassment.
Yeah.
Actually, embarrassment. Like, it's like, damn, I can't tell her. You know what I'm saying? I can't. You know. But I need to, because I need to get to the bottom of it, and that's the truth of the story.
So, if you don't mind, without giving too much detail, what was your breaking point?
My breaking point? I don't know, Derek. It was like, Derek, you know me. Derek, we've been knowing each other for a long time, and so I started, like, you know how to get fat one time, right? So I lost the weight. Of
course, we
I lost the weight, and I was good. I was getting all the attention and everything, but I still wasn't happy. And I'm like, what's going on? You see what I'm saying? To the bottle, and then it's like, man, this still ain't working. You know what I'm saying? Scared to make commitments, pushing good people out of my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, this mental stress, man. We go through it, and you have to figure out a way to get past it. That's it.
Yeah.
Real talk.
Yep. Jermaine?
Yeah. So I think my first encounter with counseling was anger management. I was married at the time, and I just had these unrealistic expectations for my wife at the time. And I just found myself just being overly emotional about things. And so when I went to the counseling, one of my major breakthroughs was because I grew up and my mom, her thing was you gotta be on time. So she was like Tom Coughlin, anybody who know football. Her thing was, if you had to be somewhere at 9 o'clock, you need to be there by 8:15, 8:20, right? To give yourself enough time. So I kind of started putting that on people. And so one day I was at the counseling session and I was talking to the counselor, and he was like, you know, what's the problem? I was like, she always late. And so he was like, let me ask you a question. He's like, do you think that she gets up and says, ooh, let me mess with him today. I'm going to be late on purpose just to make him mad. And I was like, what? I was like, no, who does that? Getting angry at her as if that's what she's doing with malice intent. And I was like, oh, he was like, you're not that important. And I was like, what? What you mean? And he was like, you think that she's thinking about you all day, every day. And he was like, she has her own life that she's living. And when she's doing what she's doing that, and you may not be at the forefront of her mind. So he was like, you got to learn to give her the benefit of the doubt. And I think that was the beginning of the journey for me, because I wasn't getting the results in my relationship and I didn't understand why. And that was the beginning, going to that counselor, having those sessions, and realizing that a lot of the problems I thought was outside was really on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, I haven't taken a step to actually go see a counselor or a therapist, because I'm always like I'm the troubleshooter. So I'm always like analyzing even my own human behavior, because I'm like a machine when it comes to like looking at other people, right? And which lends to what I'm doing with the life coach. Like I can read people like it's crazy. So when I do my assessment of my own life, like for me, my mental, the things that fall under the mental health umbrella, the negative things fell under, stress, anxiety, probably some slight depression, I'm sure. But for me, I was one of those type of people that you never saw me break, right? I'm always going to take everybody else's issues and put it on my back and handle it and worry about me last. But people, over time, I realized that people that do that, even though we do it we're selfless and we want to make sure everybody good, when you don't put yourself on that plate, there's so much stuff being taken from you, it's nothing left.
Yeah.
And a lot of just doing research, I never knew that a sign of depression was sleeping too much, right? And so I would be taking I would get my 8 hours or my 6 hours or whatever, and throughout the course of the day, I'm like, dang, I feel, I need to take another nap. Oh, another nap, another one. I just woke up. Why do I still feel tired? And I'm like, well, maybe I'm not getting enough sleep. No, I am getting enough sleep. And then when you look at what you're dealing with, and you're like, it's that. And once you purge that, and once you, and it goes everything across the board, diet, all that other kind of stuff. But I feel like all of that excessive sleeping came from a place. And it's just those little things where we know it's not right, but we don't go get checked out or figure it out. We just deal with, we gonna deal with it. Oh, I'm just an angry person, so just deal with me. That's how I am. I've learned to despise when people say those type of things, because it means that you feel like you will never change. Like you don't have the ability not to be angry every day. You don't have the ability not to be like, I'm a jealous person. So if you do something, I'm gonna slash your tires. That's just who I am. No, that's who you want to be, but you don't have to be that. You're making a conscious choice to say, I'm the person that's gonna be so angry to slash any dude that I'm with. I'm just gonna key their car. No, you don't. That's just who I am. No, that's trauma talking. Something happened. So I'm gonna let Derek bring his context in, and then we're gonna keep it moving.
So to what you said, yeah, you made a lot of good points, man.
Yes, you did.
That was good. But I think what happens too is, well, I'll say a little bit about my experience with it, and I'll say that, because I remember going to college for the first time, and I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I didn't just go into school thinking I was going to be a therapist. It took me years to get that way, and I think once I turned, 20, something just kind of clicked. That I actually liked helping people. But going to your point too, sometimes we put too much on our backs and we just try to carry everyone with us. Learning how to be a therapist taught me how not to do that. So I can put out boundaries, and it just is what it is. And you can't really no's a full sentence, and you can be mad at, you can react however way you want to it, but that's your reaction. That's not me. That's not my problem. I already said where I stood on that, where I am, not fighting, not arguing, none of that stuff. But it's understanding you can't, the way you make somebody feel isn't just completely based on you, it's on their trauma as well too, and their physiological reactions to it all too, because it's the same way how in a relationship, you should never get a relationship based on making that person making you happy. It should add to your happiness, but it shouldn't be just solely based on that person. That's just codependency. So when we come off of that and just understand, I'm responsible for my own emotions and my own feelings, it just, I don't know. I'll say for me, it gave a breath of fresh air.
Right.
Yeah, I asked Derek. I'm gonna ask Derek this question. See, my problem is I hate saying no to people.
Mm-hmm.
And like Derek Jones said earlier, I try to do everything for everybody, and I forget about myself. You know what I'm saying? So then when I get to a point, is then when I do get to a point, then I will snap, and then I'm like, damn, why I'm snapping on people. So then I go back to the same cycle. I still want to say no to nobody again, because I feel like I was wrong for snapping. But what it is I wasn't dealing with it and saying, worrying about myself in between, and let it build up, and then I snap, and then it's a cycle. I feel like I'm snapping on somebody for nothing, but I really wasn't. But it's work in progress, man.
So I'm gonna jump in what you said. So a revelation that I just came to in the last, and I posted it on my page like 2 weeks ago. And I realized that in relationships, I would have that problem. And the question was posed to me, well, why? So the thing is that some people in my life, when they would approach me, they would kind of be antsy about my response, right? How I would respond. They wouldn't say everything to me. So I really thought about it. And I was like, and I'm just going to say it bluntly. The thing was, when I would not be mature in relationships, there's going to be moments when you're not mature.
For sure.
And you need someone to help you out of that moment. Then you need someone to walk with you, give you guidance to pull you back to your right state. Too many times people in my life would say, well, we can't deal with you right now because you're being immature. Go get mature and then come back and then we'll deal with you, right? So then you go off and then the issue that you have and you struggle with it by yourself, as Kevin said, then you're going to go try to find something else. But then going back to the putting stuff on your shoulders, when it was reversed, then you want me to be mature, walk with you through your immaturity, help pull you out, and then and I can't tell you to go get mature and come back, but I gotta walk with you. And so the thing was, I realized I was getting frustrated at the fact that I didn't feel it was fair that I be mature for you, but you wasn't going to be mature and overlook my immaturity, and I had to go jump through all these hoops to be heard.
Hey, I couldn't have said it no better, Jermaine. I know exactly what you mean. But you know, we can't expect people to do what we do for them. That's what we mess up at.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it hurts. It's like, man, I did this, I do this. But then they turn around and it's like, damn. And it hurt. But yeah, you're right though, Jermaine. You're right.
Yeah. To go back to what Kevin said too, I think intention matters a lot to because that behavior of not being able to say no is just called people pleasing. And once we're doing that and we're in the midst of doing it, it's asking ourselves, well, why? Right? Like going back to what like Jermaine said too, like, you know, just checking our intentions with doing it. Is it coming from some place of wanting to be approved, someone liking us more, they'll look out for us or whatever, and being honest with yourself about that. Because I mean, if you're doing it out of good faith, and you're doing it to be a good person, great, you can move on from that. But once we're doing it for approval of other people, then you're in the wrong space.
And Derek, you're absolutely right. And that's what I'm trying to figure out now, because it's like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I don't get the results I expect or I want. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and then I got to think, like, why am I really doing this? But yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. So can I ask you guys about expectations and like what kind of expectations you have on other people?
Yeah, that's a good question. I go into it expecting people to do what I do, but I've learned that it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Because it hurts though. I'm not even going to say it hurts. You know what I'm saying? But so I get to a point. It's like, man, I just don't want to be around nobody. You know what I'm saying? So it's a real thing, man. I'm a 47-year-old man, and I'm like, I don't need to talk to nobody. You know what I'm saying? I'm Kevin Harvey. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? I did, and I still do. And I'm gonna keep on going.
Yeah. Jermaine.
So I think like what I've learned, and you know, like I say, I will read books to Derek, you know, what you said earlier about the self-evaluation, introspection. I find that for me, my greatest cry has been that I felt like I haven't been heard. So now Derek Cooper knows this because he is a licensed counselor. And he probably speaks to this better than all three of us. But I would say probably like 98, 99% of people on the planet have not taken the class on how to listen, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually classes that I learned that counselors have to take on how to listen, reflective listening, and all this stuff. And so what happens is he's laughing because so the thing is that you get into conversations and I'm trying to tell you something, and then you flipping and you trying to tell me something. And so one of the most beautiful things about counseling is literally you get an hour that is all about you. And that joker is not going to say nothing about their life. They're not going to talk about their friendships, nothing. They are there to listen and talk about you. And if you never had a moment where someone was genuinely interested to hear what you had to say, that's the beauty of going to counseling, because it seems strange at first because you ain't used to actually being interested in what you have to say.
Right.
That's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah. And the way that I because I'm like an analogy machine, and the way that I have to tune my brain every day just dealing with people is like comic books, right? Like I feel like in my brain, people's actions, whether positive or negative, have an origin story, right? Just like a comic book character. And even the villains in the comic book characters think they're doing the right thing. It just may look evil to everybody else, but it comes from a place, right? And if you look at most of the villains in the comic book, something happened to them to create that character, right? And so when you apply that to like everyday life, it gives me peace of mind when I'm encountering something that I feel is negative, and I can say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go ahead and do that, and I'm gonna keep my peace so that I don't add on to anything else that I'm dealing with. I'm not gonna let you control that. so that keeps me focused on what I need to work on, because every day is a challenge to keep the stress away, to keep the whatever else is going on. We in quarantine, people don't know which way is up, whether they gonna work so that's a whole nother show in itself.
For sure.
But you have to, like, for me, that's why I create, I sell, well, I'm not even gonna talk about that, but that's why I made this shirt, because people always say, why you keep wearing that shirt different, the same shirt that say the same thing every day? Because that's how I live. That's my life. Like, I have to keep reminding myself that my peace of mind is more important than you trying to curse me out in traffic or, whatever else is going on. That's the only way that I can keep my mind clear. And if I have a clear mind, then I can make better decisions. So that's how I operate, and it's helped me over time.
And Derek, I'm both Derek's are quite well. Derek Cooper can speak to this too, but I think the other beautiful part about counseling for me has been to take those mental pauses and talk to yourself. So many times when you're going through your day, you just react to stuff in real time. And so I got this phrase that I say that I learned over the years. Emotions are real, but not always based on reality. Right?
Very true.
So the thing is, I used to be, well, I'm still transitioning, but a lot of times I would just respond in real time. And then you respond, and then you don't ask yourself some questions like, hey, is this me? Is this really, did they really mean that? Whatever the process is, and it's just little mental check that you have to start doing that a lot of times we weren't taught to do. And you tell yourself, like, again, what comes first, right? The thought. Right? So Derek does something. I tell myself, I interpret that action, which elicits an emotion. And now I'm responding based on my emotion, based on my thought.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not even verifying if my interpretation is accurate. Oh, he disrespecting me. I ain't no punk. I can't let him punk me. I gotta let him know this how I go down.
That's funny.
No, he's standing up, and he ain't even mean that.
Yep.
Right.
And just real quick, there, just real quick. I read something online this past week, and you may have heard this too, Derek. I forget who the doctor or whoever it was, but they were saying, and that you probably heard this, that every emotion only lasts 90 seconds. Have you heard that before?
Not 90 seconds.
It was something like that, right? And I was like, yeah, right. I know some people that's been emotional for like, days and weeks. And the way that they said it was, for that 90 seconds, you experience that emotion. Every time after that, it's the story that you're telling yourself about it. It's not even about the actual thing that happened. It's what you perceive it to be and how you can in the stories that you're telling yourself that keeps it going. So I don't know. Like I was like 90 seconds. I was like, yeah, whatever. But the premise makes perfect sense. It's what we're telling ourselves about how to feel about that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think that it's like when we look at emotions that aren't technically what someone won't say like they're positive emotions, like being sad, being angry, being upset about things. People technically usually like put those things away and they don't want to deal with it. And then every time they start to feel sad about something again, they automatically push it down. And it's like, well, you keep feeling this way because you haven't dealt with what's actually making you get that way in the first place. To go back to what Jermaine said too, I think it's key to take everything in a neutral space, because once we start taking like things too high, too low, our expectations start getting messed up. But if someone can like by you say something, you take it neutral, it's like, oh, okay, cool. But it's remembering to take a compliment the same kind of way, because that same person that can build you up can break you down, and no one's got power over you.
Yeah. So we're gonna I'm looking at the clock. Y'all still good? Ain't nobody bedtime, right?
Nah, man, we good. Every quarantine, man. I'm about to get my mask, man. We good.
So the next thing I want to touch on is trauma, right? And I talked to you guys about this a little bit before the show, but the same way that we look at mental health issues and it's stigmatized about, you crazy if you go get help. Some people think that trauma is only like the most egregious things that we see, like, like somebody's getting beat up in a relationship, domestic violence, they're going to be traumatized, or someone's molested and they're traumatized. It still fits under the umbrella, but it's some stuff that people go through every day. And I'm talking about for me, right? I didn't grow up with a bunch of like craziness around me, but my relationship breakups and all this other stuff that happens, I've told this story a million times. The first 3 girlfriends I had in a row, they all cheated. By the time the third one happened, I was like, snap. And at that point, that trauma created another trajectory for me where I didn't care about anybody else's feelings at that point. It was about me making sure that you didn't get me first. And that's where a lot of what I do now with the life coaching and stuff, I had to become an expert at human behavior in order to see you coming. So I had to pay attention to everything because I was afraid. That created a whole nother human being as a result, as a protective thing for that trauma. Go ahead, Kevin.
You're 100% right with that statement, man. It's like you got your eye open when somebody hurt you, right? So that affects your relationship. You can never, if you don't ever deal with the trauma, you're never going to be in a successful relationship. Never. You're not. You know what I'm saying? I know that. I know that because I'm 47 years old and I'm single. And it's because of stuff that happened in the past, whether it was my fault, their fault, or whatever. But it is what it is. Like but like I said, I'm in therapy and I'm working on it, and hopefully we're gonna get better with it.
I think the toughest part for everybody, I don't even think it's just Black men specifically, is forgiveness and then self-forgiveness.
Self-forgiveness, yes.
Yeah, especially with like the trauma from like past relationships and stuff, because like just to forgive what happened, like I feel like a lot of people like automatically bite their tongue, or like they just don't like that feeling because pride, bitter, still being hurt about it or whatever. But it stands in the way of making that progress when we can't forgive ourselves and the other party.
Yes, yes. I definitely have a problem with forgiving myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm very
Yeah.
hard on myself. I'm my own worst critic. Everybody tells me that. They like, what's wrong with you? But it is. I'm working on it. And
And
hey,
you know
man.
what? Now that you say that, Kevin, it's even more like we talk about being afraid to talk to someone about it, but a
Right.
lot of times we're afraid to talk to ourselves about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
know I fell into that category where I felt like, I'm gonna be all right. I'm out
Yeah.
here, I'm doing what I
Yeah.
want to do. I'm footloose,
Yeah.
fancy free. I don't give a
Yeah.
damn. But I didn't talk about or resolve that trauma. So then it looked like drinking. It looked like going out and doing all this other craziness. And I never thought that, wait, I'm doing this because of that. It took most of my life to figure out that's what it was. But while
Yeah.
I was in it, I was like, I'm all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's what we have to tell ourselves to keep on moving. Because if
Yeah.
we start talking about it, first of all, you got to identify that it's even something to talk about. We so
Right.
used to just moving and we not used to stopping. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna let this girl that I broke up with take me down. I'm just gonna be a basket case and talk about it. Please, I'm not crying. I'm about to go out here
Yeah. I'm
and
about to go
find
get
10
three
more
more.
to replace that one so I can feel better.
Hey,
And that's what we
for
do.
sure.
I'm not gonna say all, but a lot of men do
For
that
sure. Huh?
as a way, and women now, women do it too. But but that's what we do to try to, instead of talking it out, figuring it out, so that we're in a better position for the next person. Not only do we try to self-heal, but we make them pay for it.
For
Right.
sure.
Let me
I've
ask
heard.
you a question. Derek Cooper, what is that called? Is there a psychological term when you suppress? I mean, is it suppression or whatever? When you have trauma and you're not dealing with it, but it keeps surfacing up in other areas of your life?
Yeah, repression. So I feel like it's a difference between the two because I feel like repression is more conscious, if that makes any sense. Like I feel like you're pushing things down, or you might not just make it a big deal and give the acknowledgement that you really should. I think especially with that, like I'll use that as an analogy, I guess. Like you break up with somebody, like just hit the street. Like it's just like to push that down and just try to get through the hurt feeling, but you're not actually fixing anything. You're just putting a band-aid over it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you saying so repression is, you said repression is conscious?
Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly, repression is conscious and suppression is when it's like an unconscious push down because it was something that happened and your brain just
I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. Yeah, because what I was, when y'all was just saying that, like, I think I had to learn that everything is connected. Like I used to, when I was younger, I saw everything as compartmentalized. And now as I'm getting older, I see everything as connected or interconnected. And so like trauma, my first trauma was that I could remember was being like 7. And my dad was supposed to come take me to the movies. And I came outside and was dressed up and I sat on the porch. He was there all day and my friends was playing and they was like, yo, you don't want to play? And I'm like, nah, my father coming. Like, he never came, he never called. And so then it was like something broke that day in me when it came to my father. And then it was years later that I was dealing with other relationships and I was having issues with men. Any man that kind of came at me, it was like I'm punishing them for what my father did. So it took some time. I finally reconciled with him and we worked things out. But those things walked with me because I mean at 7 I didn't know how to deal with it. And it wasn't in my late teens, early 20s that I started the process of trying to figure out what's this, because I started to see a pattern, like Derek said, I started to see a pattern with certain men in authority. And it was like, what's the problem? Sometimes I wanted to be around them, but then when they started to try to work with me, I would push them off. I didn't understand what was going on. And so, that repression, suppression piece, then, start going to counseling, you realize, okay, you got daddy. So
Yeah.
And also,
This-
go ahead. I'm
Sorry,
sorry, Derek. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you guys because Jermaine kind of brought up something and pushing people away. Just like you guys, if you recognize what your defense mechanisms are, I can give examples of that if you want. If you want to know.
Okay.
So it could be just the pushing away. It can be gaslighting is a huge one. Trying to think like two more.
I can tell you what mine is. Mine is always to try to retaliate.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, so if you hurt me, I'm gonna go do something over here to you. So you're gonna see it, not retaliation. That's my
Just to
defense
get that. Yeah.
for sure, 100%. I jump all the way out the window.
I mean, I don't know if this is gaslighting, but I think kind of to what Derek was talking about earlier. You once you get hurt, you go through a season where there's different stages of relationships, and then it gets to a point where you're trying to commit, and you kind of looking like, well, they're gonna hurt me, so I'm gonna do something or self-sabotage or stuff like that. So when I was young, I used to do that a lot because once you hurt, you tend not to trust people. So even when people actually do have your best interest in mind, you don't believe them because you have such a pattern. Or going back to the other piece, you keep telling yourself about the 90 seconds. Well, it's going to be this again. So you won't even allow yourself to have a good moment because you're expecting the worst.
Hey, Jermaine, you couldn't have said it better, man. Self-sabotaging. I'm like, yeah.
I had a client on Saturday, and she was this doesn't bring confidentiality. She was talking about her relationship with men and why she's single, then just all of that. And she got to a point she just had an epiphany in the middle of the session and said, I don't know what to do with a good guy. If I get somebody that's a jerk or treats me bad because she has so much experience with it, I think I know how to do it. Because the good person, the perceived nice person, they have more potential to hurt me down the line because they make me vulnerable. I trust them, right? And the person that's not emotionally available or just a jerk, you know how to move around that, and you already don't have to open up yourself so much. And I feel like guys go through the same thing as well too. Sometimes with women, you might have daddy issues or abandonment issues from your mom, whatever it may be. We're not taught how to get into a healthy argument. We're not taught how to disagree with somebody, but just come back together from it. Everything doesn't have to be an end all be all. It doesn't have to be we got to go fight, it's over. No, you can come back from that situation, but I think a lot of us are taught to, once things go wrong, get out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my defense mechanism was just like one of the commenters. I'm gonna talk to a few of the comments in a second here. Avoidance. Just avoiding it to fix it. Yeah. That was my way to fix it, was to disappear. Y'all, everybody talk about ghosting. I was the ghost king. you wasn't gonna find me, and I wasn't going. How people say, just be a real man and tell me that it wasn't. I didn't care. I didn't care, especially if we didn't spend enough time. For me, this was the old me. Okay, guys, this was way, way, way back when I didn't have it right here, right? So I didn't care, especially if the time we spent, I felt like the time we spent wasn't enough for me to even spend more time explaining why I'm leaving than we actually spent time together. Have a good day. That was my mentality. I didn't care about the dialogue and the communication, and maybe it might have worked out. Who knows? I didn't. When I felt pressure, I would just run. Yeah. And with no remorse, no empathy, but that came from way back. This is what I wanted to talk about with trauma before we jump off of this topic. But a lot of times people don't realize is even we dealing with single parent homes and divorce and people don't realize that even a 5-year-old kid experiences trauma sometimes when maybe a parent isn't there or they had the two parents and now they don't, and they're having fun, right? They at Chuck E. Cheese. You don't really know what that looks like until they 16 or they 25 or they 30, and they're making all of these decisions based on something that they felt when they was little, and it just carries on. A lot of us have been through, like, if you really look at, like I always talk about, your tool, I call it the toolbox, the tools that you had from a kid, from a teenager, to be able to communicate, to be able to socially just deal with people and stress and stuff like that. That box is empty as hell for most of us. We gotta try to build it as we go, but we didn't have the blueprint. So when you're 10 and your dad leaves, you gotta suck it up.
Wow.
You're not talking to anybody. You just go, your mama might be like, you the man of the house now. Who that? A 10-year-old can't be the man of the house. Stop it.
And that's the worst thing you can say to a child is you're the man of the house.
Wow.
The worst thing you can say.
So, people don't.
Us who went through that. And
Yeah.
back to the whole stigma piece, because we've been men in the house since we was like 7 or up years old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And people say that build's supposed to, build character, but you're 10, you're 7, you can't even be a kid anymore. Now you grow up into an adult, you got to carry that with you. You wasn't allowed to grow like you're supposed to. And when that person becomes, let's say that there's something negative that comes from all of that, right? The person on the receiving end, maybe you dating a woman and you doing something that she hates, and she's like, oh, he's evil. Oh, he's a bad guy. That's why I always say, yeah, there's people out here that are really just doing evil stuff every day. But you got to look at, like, we're not born that way. So that doesn't mean you allow the bad behavior. But I'm saying at some point, we have to collectively say, all right, guys, yeah, we've been through some stuff. We're going to counseling. We figuring it out. Now we got to show somebody else the way too.
For
like
sure.
I'm not the therapist or the counselor, but at least I can say, you know what, that's not right. Like, hey, little 7-year-old cousin, I see you over there in the corner. You might need to. You want to talk about it instead of saying, "Suck it up, go outside and play."
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of counseling, because the key word that you said to me, and I wrote it down, was when you said toolbox, right? And because of trauma, I had 3 tools: anger, being loud, and taking stuff personal. That's how I do everything. You get what I'm saying? So if you did me wrong, I'm taking that personal, and I'm gonna respond in kind. You get what I'm saying? But when you're not getting the results, to what Kevin said earlier, when you're not getting the results, then you gotta say, well, what's going on? And it's like, when you go to the actual store and buy a toolbox, it could be 15, 20, 30 different tools in that joker. And now you got a whole toolbox with only 3 tools in it. And you trying to get all the jobs done emotionally with 3 tools. That's why you have to go to counseling sometimes, because the counselors can help you learn and develop some other tools to help you. And here's the thing: do I want to vent? Do I want to vent, or do I want to be understood? And if I be understood, I gotta talk differently than if I'm just venting. And that took me a long time to learn, because I thought if I vented, then you should understand, but everybody don't receive the venting language.
Yeah.
Hey, Jermaine, you podding now, brother. You podding now.
Hey,
I do got a tool for you guys if you haven't heard of it yet. It's a book. It's like one of my favorites, and I bring it up all the time. It's called The 4 Agreements.
Yeah.
You have it already?
Yeah. I think I bought it for somebody else. I didn't read it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's so like such like a simple read, and it's really to live by. It's so good.
there you go.
You said it's called what again?
It's not that thick.
Nah.
The 4 Agreements.
Yes.
Hey, Jermaine, I know. I got one for y'all too, but go. Let's let Derek go ahead. Yeah.
So that's the book. Give us like the little 60-second, like, why people need to read it.
So I pulled it up on my phone because I wanted to remember all 4 of the agreements. So it's just 4
Mhm.
principles really to live by, just so we take out the complexity of life, because life is not that complicated. Like, honestly, it's kind of like the same cycle over and over again, as us just trying to do the best we can each and every day. So the 4 agreements are: 1, be impeccable with your word. So
Mhm.
if you say something, do it. Don't fool around. Don't lie to people. Don't make excuses for things. Just do it. Don't take anything personally, because kind of goes back to my neutral point. Take everything in that neutral space. So nothing gets you too high, nothing gets you too low. Don't make assumptions, because that just leads to, like, rationalizing, us ruminating in our heads about everything. And I've just literally seen people make up a whole relationship or a story based off an assumption. Like, none of that even happened.
Amen.
They like 50 years down the road. I'm like, yeah, pull that back, man. And the last one is always do your best. So whatever you do, put 100% into it. Don't slack, because at the end of the day, you only let yourself down or you don't do your best. So I feel like those 4 very basic things, but I feel like anyone can apply them.
Wow. I got a book for y'all. Unlearn by Humble the Poet.
Yeah,
Incredible.
man.
Incredible
Yeah,
book.
really good book.
Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
What is it called?
Unlearn. And it's by Humble the Poet, right? Yeah.
Yep.
It's incredible. It's incredible, Derek. Trust me. It's
Getting that tonight.
you get it tonight. Yeah, it's a
Is
very
that
good
it?
book, man. Huh?
Look at the screen. Is that it?
I can't see.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't see. I don't see nothing. Where
Oh, you
you
can't
at?
see it.
Yeah.
Unlearned by Humble the Poet, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a very, very, very good book. Easy read too, man. It's like 100 chapters,
Yeah.
but the chapter might be 2 pages. It's oh man. That's what started me, actually, that book. When I read that and was going through the pages, I'm like, wow, I didn't know I was doing this. I didn't know I was doing that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good book, man. So whoever's watching, y'all should pick it up.
Thank you.
It's not a sales pitch.
It's not a sales pitch until you write yours, man. It's coming.
For sure.
So this is what we're gonna do. We at an hour now, right?
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is, there's a host of other topics we could talk about. We're gonna do a part 2. Date to be determined depending on schedules, but we're gonna do a part 2, and we will on the side discuss what those topics are. And people that are in the comments, if there's some topics that you want to hear, let us know when we can discuss it. I may add another. We got room for 6 total people, so I may add another person or 2. And real quick before we leave, I'm gonna make sure that I know there was one person on here from Periscope, Aggie Hort. We're going to I normally don't allow call-ins on these shows because it's a podcast, so the audio is going to get uploaded, and I don't know all of y'all, so I don't know who's going to pop up. But I will do a show where we can do like a Q&A, not the part 2, but we can do a Q&A. Because you're on Periscope, when I put the link up, you can't click it. So what you're going to do on Periscope is you're going to go into my profile, click on my website, and go to live show, and find me on one of the social medias, and just hit me up on the side and say, hey, I want to come in on the show, and then we can talk. So I just wanted to address that. And then let me see real quick. Let me make sure. Thought I saw everything. This is going back. So somebody on Periscope, JoJo Stern said everyone thinks they're a little smarter than the other. I think this was back going to when we were talking about, when I was talking about the origin story. JoJo Stern says when we do that, we need to hesitate and say where in them is that coming from. I say that all the time about people because, when you see people and they having a bad day, and then like I always talk about how energy gets transferred. I always say maybe they having a bad day. I need to just go ahead and let them go ahead,
So
Kevin.
look, I'm gonna give you this story, right? Today, right? I went to go play my numbers at the liquor store, right? So I played my numbers and I gave the guy, I thought I gave him a 20, but I might have gave him a 10, but it wasn't enough money. Asian guy, right? he cussed me out, right? And I'm like, it took me by surprise. I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I thought I gave you this. Man, you get out of my store. I'm like, what? And Derek, you already know. I'm like, so I had to calm myself. I said, look, man, I looked at him. You know what it was? I looked at his mask, right? When I had a mask on, I'm like, we all going through it, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
We're all going through it. It's frustration. I feel you, but you shouldn't talk to me like that, right?
Right.
But I wanted to talk the life out of him. But I went home.
Of course.
It was me all day. I got on my chest this man. But I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. It's hard to let stuff like that go, because especially as men, we have pride and we don't want to.
Hey, Derek, I was driving home. I wanted to turn around. I said, you know what? I'm too old. I'm going home.
But see, this is the headspace that we live in at this age.
Right.
And where I always go to, I got stuff to lose now. I can't. And what action sets the stage for how I'm going to be able to interact with my family, how I'm going to, make money in that one moment.
One moment can change it. Like, cause I'm telling you, it might caught me so off guard. But you know what I said? I said it is a way I can get back at him is never support his store again.
There you go.
And that's it.
It's always a way. That's why
we got that. We even though, you know what I mean.
That's what I always believe is in what I do. Just in IT and troubleshooting, there's not always one answer. It's always multiple answers, and maybe you just chose the wrong one that time. And there's other ways to look at stuff. That's how I live my life. That's why I can't. No matter what I do, whether it's the life coaching, whether it's being an engineer. If I feel like something's bringing such a negative energy to me, or I can't solve this problem, I can't figure it out, then I'm like, you know what? That's not the path. Let me figure out another one, because there's going to be one that's going to work for me. That's how I feel. There's always going to be a path that I'm supposed to take. And if this one don't feel good, I don't stop and give up or lash out. I'm going to find one that works so that I can maintain my peace of mind. This is the most important thing to me. Like, it took me my whole life to figure out how important having that sanity and that mind clarity.
Yeah.
And you're talking about health, right?
Yeah.
Stress. Like, come on now. At least two of y'all on the panel got to know that stress. Derek, I know you're a little younger, but once you get to a certain point, that stress hit a little different.
Oh, for sure.
It hits a little different.
Yeah.
It hits a little different. It hits a little harder. And I'm not saying that, you can't experience stress. I'm saying I used to be the one to be able to be like, yeah, I got this. Now I'd be like, you know what, man, that thing that took me out for a whole day. I can't even function. I can't think straight. Yeah. I need to get over this. And I'm like, dang. And then next thing you know, you feeling sick, and it's just affecting you, like all over your body. And it's like, dang, is it that person that cursed me out? Is it worth that?
Yeah,
That's where my mind goes. Is it worth that?
I was tight, man. I'm talking about to the point, like, I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just came up at the house and was like, okay. I said, I got this podcast with Derek tonight later, so.
See, I saved your life, brother. I saved your life today.
For sure.
Yeah, we're going to do a part 2. Everybody that's on here, just stay connected. And I'm going to let you guys go, and I'm going to close the show out so I can tell them how to be connected or whatever. But we're going to do a part 2. We're going to figure out what it is. I may bring somebody else up here. I got space for 2, but I'm not taking open people just randomly coming in when they feel like it. I'm not doing that. So no shade against anybody on here. We know y'all all perfectly nice people, but I don't know y'all. So I got to make sure that this thing goes off and we get the information we need to get in. So if you want to hit me on the side and you got a topic or you want to come on the show, let me know. It's not a problem. We all human. And I want this show to project out that real people have real problems, and those real problems have real solutions, or at least you can manage it better, right? This is what I had to learn. You may not cure it, but you can learn how to manage it better. That's what a life lesson for me, because I was like, I can't fix it. No, you can manage it better though, because I always want to fix it to a fault. Like, it's got to be done. It's fixed. But I realized sometimes you can't fix trauma. You can't fix a lifetime of depression, but you can manage it so that you're functional in society and you not just taken out like that.
Right.
And so, like for me, where I look at it now, like the age that we are, you know, we got a 4 in front of our ages now.
Yes, sir.
What I think about in closing, and we'll touch on this for a few minutes, is that knowledge that it took me that long. Who do I give that to that may be 20? So they don't have to look at life through that lens of the tumultuousness and the anger and all of that. If I can give that gift, that's why I wanted to do this show. It's so many little Black boys and girls out here that don't know. Like, we figured it out over time. It took it trial by fire, right? But they really don't have like a bare minimum tool to use. And if we can give them, and I'm not talking about like, you know, if they 10, they might listen, they might not. 22, they might listen a little bit, because we got to try. Because like I said earlier, we didn't know because we didn't have the tools. But what if somebody said, here's the tools right here, all you got to do, you can use them to apply to your life, but at least you got something to start with, so that you can, you know, hopefully make a little bit, you know. But everybody gonna make their own mistakes, but we definitely didn't have. I know I didn't. I just kind of fumbled through it. Go ahead, Jermaine. I'm sorry.
I just think, one, I want to thank you for creating this platform, right? Both Derek, I want to thank you, right? I think for all of us, I think the biggest ask is going to be trying to create a culture in our community where it's okay to go get help.
Yes.
Right? That's the biggest issue, because it's still a stigma in our community. It's a lot of people going versus when we was in our 20s, but it's a lot more people who need to go and just get some help.
Yeah.
Talk. And that's what I think. If you look at therapy as just going to talk, it's gonna be a great thing. Just go have a conversation.
And it's not as bad. I mean, cut you off, Jermaine. It's not as bad as people think. Once you get there, it turns into something else, and you would never even think that it would do that for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I'm gonna let you get the. I'm gonna get you let Derek Cooper get the last word here. You got to really look at, like Jermaine was talking about, community, right? And it just, like, we all, I'm sure, have been in a situation where we had a friend that was just doing too much, or they was drinking too much, or they was cheating too much, and we just sat there and was like, that's my boy, so I'm gonna just let him do his thing. And he on the side of the road throwing up, and you know, he didn't drink some stuff that's probably the equivalent to gasoline 10 times over, and you just like, nah, he'd be all right. We know that he might have just broke up with his wife, and there's no, first of all, the person that's listening probably don't have the tools to communicate. But what if you say, hey man, that drinking you doing, that ain't cool, man. Like, what's up, man? You good? Oh, you know what? You might want to talk to somebody about that. Cause I mean, I love you, man. Like we gotta, like, who was saying that at 20, right? Most of us were saying I love my brother at 20. We were out there just doing, you know what I'm saying? When that becomes normal, then the conversation starts to become easier, right? We, at the end of the day, like, we collectively, no matter what damage we have done or people we've hurt or hurting ourselves, we came up in an era where there was a code, man. Like, you wasn't just gonna be out here just doing whatever. At some point, you know, you might have fought, you might have did whatever, but at the end of the day, that's your brother. Like, if we don't ever get back to that, we're never going to be able to get where we need to get, because people that go to Derek Cooper to get help, sometimes it may take a Jermaine to say, hey man, you might need to go talk to somebody. Because Derek Cooper can go out on the street and say, hey, come to me. A lot of times, sometimes people have to either get that epiphany or someone they love is going to say, look, man, that what you doing, that right there ain't cool, man.
Yeah.
You might need to, I'll go with you. I'll help you find the person. But this right here, you can't do that. Most of us men, we're not doing that with our friends. We just letting them do whatever because that's the man code, right? You don't snitch, you don't tell, you don't just let that man do him. And I know women do it too, so we're not gonna let y'all be absolved. As men, we see a lot of, and I know it's gonna be some dudes that's gonna be like, man, stop saying that. We don't get healed and we don't get fixed if we don't start talking about it.
That's true, man. 100%.
So, Derek Cooper, I'm gonna let you have the final word here, and then we're gonna try to figure out what this part 2 looks like.
Yeah, man. First off, I appreciate you even inviting me to do this. Like we linked up randomly like Saturday and started talking about this. So, and I'm happy I was even here with you guys, even had this conversation. And I think too, like the fact that you guys are my elders. You're not old, but you guys are generation above me. I get to watch this happen too, and have to see you guys be open about mental health and want to talk about this kind of stuff is new to me, and I find it amazing, and I honestly appreciate every single one of you even doing this right now. I'll speak for my friend group. That was something that we established probably around 19, 20 years old with all the guys in our group. We talked about stuff, we really did. And we had, I don't know if I had anything to do with it or just the kind of people we were, but we were very open to trying to find ways to deal with everything going on. And I would check my male friends. I would check them and say, yo, what are you doing? What's going on? How you feeling? I know you just broke up with her, what's going on? And try to make sure they're okay. And this is before I even found out I wanted to be a therapist. But I think those, to kind of go to you guys' point, I think those things are starting to change a little bit more. I feel like my generation is starting to be more open to talk about how they feel about things, guys included, just talk about how they feel about things and actually talking, maybe not to a therapist, but to somebody about it. I'm in my late 20s. So technically a millennial, kind of on the cusp of that. But a lot of people I know around me they're open to talking about their issues, at least with me and with people close to them as well too. So I was happy that I at least played a part in cultivating that kind of environment for the people I care about. And anybody that I meet, friend, stranger, whatever, I try to give off that same kind of energy to anybody. So
yeah. So I thank you, gentlemen. Like I said,
we're gonna do it, brother. Appreciate it, man. This was dope, man. It was dope.
Yeah. And it really, before we leave, what I want to let people understand and know, there's no one that's on this panel that's got it all together, right? Nah. We always a work in progress, but what everyone up here will be able to say, and I don't even I can't speak for them, but I guarantee you, as soon as we all get off of here, just from talking about this stuff, we're gonna feel like there's a little weight that just got lifted.
For sure.
Just from talking about it, right? So that's the key. All we did was talk about it, right? And there's going to be there's going to be some therapy here for us as we're talking and you guys are listening. It's therapeutic just to talk about it. That's the life lesson. Talk about it. And once you talk about it and you get it off your chest, then that pressure releases and then you can kind of think better. I'm always about I'm the brain hacker. If you start clearing out some of the clutter and you start having more clear thoughts, then you can start seeing it's the lenses are different. And you're like, wait, why am I doing this? I had to have that epiphany at some point. I was like, all this stuff I'm doing, if I try to fast forward this track, there's no happiness at the end of it. And I'm not getting any younger. So I got to change something in order for me to get to the goal. What's my goal? Am I going to be out here just being random and running amok until I'm 75? Or am I going to make a shift for my happiness? And once I did that, and once I took the time to breathe, then I kind of fell into, that the energy changes. And now I was able to receive my now wife. But if I was that dude, who knows? right? And I'm not saying that everybody's going, especially now, everybody's going to end up married. Okay, the numbers just don't add up, right? But you can definitely, if nothing else, live a happier, fruitful, growth-filled life if you just take a minute to and like I said before, once again, I'm gonna close with this. We don't all have the tools, but there are people that are more educated and informed than we are, like a Derek Cooper, who can put that map together for you to say, okay, here's the pieces. And what's that, Jermaine?
I was trying to point.
He's pointing to Derek Cooper, man. He's pointing to Derek.
The camera was
Let him know,
yeah. So, at the end of the day, it's really just about growth. Like, I'm all about growth. If you're just staying stagnant, then in everything that you experience, whether it's negative or positive, like depression, stagnant depression, you're going to perpetually stay in that state until you try to break the cycle. Anything that you're dealing with that's debilitating, and a lot of us live with it. And I would say this too, as men, there's a lot of women out here that are carrying a lot of pain from men that experience pain and put that on you.
For
and
sure.
Now you have to be someone's mom, right? It's not fair, right? And that kid, if we don't check ourselves, becomes us. And I always say, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And sometimes that gift we give our kids is our trauma. And then we're like, why are they wilding out? Why are they doing? And then you look at, wait, they just watched me and my wife argue for the past 5 years every day. They didn't even know what it looked like to be happy.
You part now, bro.
Right? And when a woman meets that guy that comes from that, he an asshole. He ain't shit. And when you, as the man who ain't shit, you earn that title. You did your dirt. But guess what you got to hear in your head every time you think, I ain't shit. I ain't shit. So I might as well be that dude then. I'm going to be the villain in your story then. If that's what I'm going to be, let me go ahead and be that. And now, oops, dang, I got somebody pregnant. Now I'm a dad. What you going to teach your kid now?
Wow.
Like that's the rabbit hole goes deep. Yeah. And now you got a whole generation growing up with not a toolbox, but a box full of trauma. And they gotta be all right. That's where this comes from. That's where my passion for what I'm doing. Like I always tell people on the science fiction movie, that movie Minority Report, where Tom Cruise was like, he had to arrest people before they. I want to tell you, like, hey, look, there's the crime is about to happen. Go this way. Go read the video before you think about doing. That's why I do this, because I want people to really. I don't have all the answers, but I can assemble the Avengers and you put us all together, and maybe somebody got it tonight.
For sure.
Right? So I'm gonna close that out. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you. We're gonna talk about a part 2. Don't know when, because I got another show. But I'm gonna talk about that. I got another show on Wednesday, but we'll talk about what day works for everybody. But we're gonna get this in. Like I said, I may bring in somebody else. I've seen a couple people that say they're interested in coming on. And people in the comments, comment any type of mental health related topics. We're still in the month of May. We're not only going to talk about it in the month of May, but we really want to put a microscope on it. That's why I always lead my shows with, I'm a mental health advocate. I lead with that. Even though I talk about relationships, a lot of relationships rely on your brain to be clear. So we're going to leave you with that. Thank you, gentlemen. And I'm going to let y'all go. And I'm going to show out here. Let me put y'all on mute just in case y'all feel froggy real quick. Let me go ahead and all right, guys. Thank you guys, listeners, for joining. We're gonna do this again. I know there was a lot of meat tonight for you to chew on. So go back and listen to the replay. Get your friends and family, share and invite. On this show, I have another show on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. where I have a young lady coming on, and we're going to talk about, the title is going to be called Public Success While You're Struggling in Private, right? So go ahead and let that marinate real quick. We're going to talk about people who are successful and it looks good, but they're struggling in private with their everyday lives and things that they're dealing with. And that fits a lot of us, especially now we're in quarantine and all of that. So we're going to get it in. I'm going to keep bringing good content to you. This is also a podcast. So let me put that information up for you as well so that you can see that. For those of you that are viewing on the live show, you can get this podcast basically everywhere. Like that's just a little snapshot of some of the places you can get it from. But anywhere you can get podcasts from, I'm there. All you got to do is search for Relationship Gumbo, and it pops up, and you can binge. I think we're at 31 episodes, and then this one I think will make 32. But I'm just gonna keep popping this content out and giving you information. We're gonna have some more guests throughout the month. Like I said, we're gonna do a part 2 to this soon, so stay tuned for that. And what you also want to do is go to relationshipgumbo.net. And that's where you can find all things Relationship Gumbo. We have Relationship Gumbo Life Coaching, Relationship Gumbo Apparel, and the Relationship Gumbo Podcast. So it's all one big happy family. And I think that is all. Let me make sure there's no extra comments here. And we're going to get out of here. Let me put myself back on the screen real quick so I can say goodbye. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your night, what's left of it, and a great rest of your week and weekend. And make sure you stay safe out there. Wash your hands, wear your mask, do whatever you got to do to protect yourself and your family and your community around you. And we will see you Wednesday at 8 p.m. And then after that, we're going to do a part 2 for this. So I'll let you know what date that's going to be. Have a great night. All right. Podcast is over. Everybody have a good night. And I will talk to you next time.
Okay, everybody wants good love, that's true, I know. Derrick Jones about to break it down with the Relationship Gumbo. Welcome to the podcast. Ain't no doubt we all need this, ayy, cause better relationships need better ingredients, ayy. So if you want better relations, it's about communication, finding love, staying together. We all wanna make it better, yeah. Derrick Jones the host, your relationship coach. Thank you all for tuning in. Relationship Gumbo, ayy.